Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We now open this meeting of Toastmasters Golden Speakers in Fairfield, Iowa. Welcome. We'd like to turn this meeting over to Will Burns, our president, at this point.
Okay, we have a fairly unorthodox meeting tonight. A lot of folks stepping in, stepping up. Appreciate it. Gonna start here by doing a invocation. We'll see how this goes here with this. Maybe we'll start to do this more often. From the point of light.
No. She reads it.
No, don't do it. It goes with its speech.
All right.
Oh, it goes with the speech.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Moving right along.
Do another one.
Do another one.
I would like to invoke the message and the mantra of Toastmasters.
Yeah.
I will provide a mutually supportive, positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth.
Hey.
And now, it is my deep pleasure to introduce our Toastmaster, Slobodan.
Thank you, Will. I like to go by Slobodan only, just like being Aristotle or somebody else, right? So, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Are you all guys comfortable here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what else can be at this blistering night in Iowa than coming with, being at a Toastmaster meeting? Snuggling with your friends. It's nice and warm here. Share some ideas, learn some new stuff, and have some really great fun, right?
Absolutely.
So people that are not here, I have good news for you. Iowa has a long winters, so you can come next time. But make sure you don't forget again. So the theme of tonight, of the meeting tonight is, I believe, New Year's.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it might be slightly too early because the 21st of December is still not here, right? So there might be no New Year. So let's wait for the next time we have that New Year's topic. But for now, we have a great program and we have a group of experts to make sure that everything stays on track. We have the General Evaluator, Scott Terry.
Yeah!
You want to tell us a little bit of your role, or you don't have to tell us? Everybody knows about
We'll
it.
just hear from him later.
Great. The timer is Stephanie Chambers.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your role?
Yes, I'll be timing tonight to make sure everyone keeps to the agenda. So table topics are for 1 to 2 minutes. The green light is turned on at 1 minute. The yellow light is turned on at 1 minute 30 seconds. The red light is turned on 2 minutes, and then you have another 30 seconds to finish up. Prepared speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. So the green light's on at 5, the yellow light is at 6, and the red light is at 7. And evaluations are 3 minutes, the green light is at 2, the yellow light is 2 minutes 30 seconds, and the red light turned on at 3 minutes, and then you have another 30 seconds to wrap up. And I'll give a report at the end to let everyone know how it went. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Jean has a couple of different roles tonight. She's grammarian, belt counter, and evaluator. Can you tell us more about the grammarian role? Thank you.
Yeah, good G.
My role as a grammarian will be twofold. One is to track the usage of the word of the day. And I'll tell you the second one. First, the word of the day, though, is predilection, and it's an established preference for something. And I like this word, actually. So, an example, Joanne has always had a predilection for healthy meal shakes, even during the sugar-filled holidays. So I'll be checking to see how often that is used. It's just a preference. And then secondly, I'll be looking for creative word usage and phrases, and also incorrect word usages and phrases, and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
It's I think it looks like this. Everybody here has a predilection to be here on Tuesday nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Who was the counter? Did you catch this? So the joke master again is Jesus. Thank you. And I think that's all about the special team of experts.
Okay.
Oh, the accountant?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Dan.
Dan.
Yay, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
My role as a counter is to track the filler words that we use as we speak. Things like like, so, but, and, pauses, doubles, words, false starts, and tongue clicks. And I'll give an exciting report at the end.
Thank you, Dan. Now I'd like to introduce the table topic master, Jeffrey, that will have the first part of the meeting.
I'm the Table Topics Master. I'll be asking a series of prompts in which volunteers have the opportunity to answer off the cuff, 1 minute to 2 minutes. It's an opportunity to think off your feet, and this is the beginning portion of our meeting. It's supposed to get everyone really excited. So I have 6 questions here. They all have a predilection towards the theme, the new year. And I think everyone has a role tonight, so how's this going to work? I mean, is anyone...
No.
Anybody can volunteer.
Mr. Toastmaster? 1 through 6.
1.
How and where do you plan on celebrating the new year, 2013? Are there any differences from how and where you celebrated in 2012? And at midnight, will you give anyone a kiss?
Thank you. That was rather a nosy question. Dear members, there are no guests tonight, but there should be some guests next time. And viewers at home, how will I celebrate 2013? I just made a comment a few minutes ago. I don't know if it's going to be a 2013 celebration yet, but I hope it's not going to be the same like 2012. I did not like celebration for 2012 because nothing went as I planned to. And I usually like to plan things that I have control of them. Well, over here I didn't have control. So I hope for 2013 I'll have control. But now there's a new force in place. And maybe there is no 2013. So no control again. I mean, how can you have a good New Year's party if you don't have control? Who is coming, what is happening? So I guess I'll try to be flexible this New Year. And be open to anything that comes. And see if I can enjoy that. Maybe I can be happy rather than right. Is that possible? Maybe, we'll see. Thank you. About the kiss, I'll tell you later.
Scott? Right.
Sure, I don't have a role tonight.
Now, all these questions might be considered nosy, so remember, you are feel free to answer however you like. You can ignore the question in the prompt at all. 2 through 5.
I'll go for the random number.
Your choice. I choose. Oh. I guess I'll choose 6.
6 it is. I wanted 6.
Are you better off than you were a year ago? Is the world a better place than it was a year ago?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, honored guests that are virtual tonight, and the predilection of what we are all to become. What I'd like to tell you and everybody in this audience is in the next 2 minutes, I will tell you what the difference is that was between last year and this year. How many people want to know what the difference was for me, but mostly what the difference will be for you from then to now? Who wants to know?
I want to
I
know.
want to know.
Do you want to know? Yes, you do. The difference is in time, not between what was and what is, but what we are creating time to be. There is no past. Past is simply what we create it to be, what prologue was. I am better off today than I was because that's what I choose to make it. I choose to make today better than it was. I choose to make tomorrow, next year, the world to come, even more powerful. What I am creating in my life is the vision for something more to happen. Something more that you can make happen in your life. And since we are all connected to each other, the power isn't what I can create, but it's in what you can create today to make your life more meaningful. We always look back to the past. What happened? There is no past. Again, it's what we're creating the past to be. Events, the past, the traumas that we've experienced, they're not real. They're what we've made them to become. Meaning is a choice. Our life is a choice today. So tomorrow, what we can create is something far more powerful. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, for giving me the opportunity to create the truth today.
There's still 4 more prompts if anyone's feeling courageous enough to volunteer. Do we have time even?
Let's do one more.
Jesus.
Yes.
Two through 5, sir.
Hi.
How do you celebrate the holiday season? What do you think is most important this time of year?
Hey, Master. I think that every moment is a reason for celebration. There's no need for us to wait for New Year's, for Christmas, your birthday, or any special occasion. Right now, this moment is very special. We are here. We are breathing. That is a reason for celebration. Every time you can get up every morning on your feet, get ready to go about your day, that alone is a reason to celebrate. Celebrate life. Life is too short to be waiting for celebration on holidays only. We should celebrate every single moment. Tomorrow, God forbids, maybe some people here, from here, some people watching at home, maybe might not have the fortune of opening their eyes tomorrow. As sad as that might sound, but that is reality. Therefore, let's celebrate life by the minute, every moment. Let's live today. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
All right, that concludes table topics this evening. I hope you all enjoyed this, and we'll get into the prepared speeches portion of our meeting now. I'd like to turn it back over to our
Evaluation.
yes, table topics evaluator.
Actually, we vote first.
Oh, please, let's vote. Give us.
Yeah, I think a minute to vote. I think a minute to vote.
Qualified to be voted on. All right, now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our table topics evaluator, Mr. Art Atkinson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chip. Good evening, Toastmasters. I want to compliment our table topics master on some especially nosy and evocative questions. No, he presented a good platter on which we could have a little feast here. Slobodan. How to celebrate the New Year coming up, the New Year's transition coming up. What I enjoyed was your energy, Slobodan. I enjoyed the fact that you had a personal story and you had a control theme that you were able to weave throughout your little talk. And you had plenty of energy moving around in the space in front of this lectern and table. My recommendation for you would be to allow some more space between your thoughts. We had almost a continuous stream of words from the time you opened your mouth until the end. There was no pause in there between thoughts at all. Scott, is the world better off than it was before? Excellent long-term pause at the beginning to collect your thoughts. Use of the word of the day. Wow. The talk had the feeling to me like one of those table topics talks that you can't imagine wasn't already a prepared, rehearsed talk. It was superb. My suggestion for you, well, I particularly thought the vocal variety, excellent. The use of the space, one point from here, another point from here, another point from here. The only recommendation would be, you said the past is what we created to be. That might be a difficult concept to just digest. If you could give us an example of how that might be actually done by somebody. Jesus, another superb talk on this theme of celebrate, be here now. How is it that we should celebrate? And you said we should celebrate by being present and being happy that we're alive right now. Paraphrase. Excellent vocal variety. One point when you're discussing a fairly sensitive topic, very low volume in the voice, pulling us in, and great energy. I would recommend pick up on Scott's technique of pausing even longer before beginning the talk and collecting your thoughts. For me, the two were like sister talks. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. It's unbelievable. We're almost on time, and I think I'm developing predilection for the table topics.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how scary they are, but it's really exciting to learn to think while you're standing there. And thank you all for making the pauses. I think we need the pauses not only for the audience, but also for ourselves. So that was a very good feedback. Now, the next part of the meeting is prepare speeches, when people actually have a chance to think about what they're going to say, plan it, and practice it, hopefully. So let's have Dan introduce Rhonda as our next speaker.
First, she's going to take a couple minutes to set up.
So can you take a break?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Then Craig is going to introduce Rhonda as our next speaker. Thank you, Dan.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, we're going to hear from Rhonda doing her project number 4, which is how to say it. Let me read the objectives from the manual. They are to select the right words and sentence structure to communicate your ideas clearly, accurately, and vividly. Use rhetorical devices to enhance and emphasize ideas. Eliminate jargon and unnecessary words. Use correct grammar. The illumination of compassion moves Rhonda to serve and pray for other sentient beings. Any living species whose sense and feel sensations are sentient. Domestic animals sense with their 5 senses and feelings. Animal husbandry is managing resources and caring for sentient beings. Tonight we examine the past and present care of domestic animals used for food. For their sake, we humbly ask for loving kindness and non-injury. The title of Rhonda's talk is A Tale of Animal Husbandry. Please welcome Rhonda Wick.
Toastmaster members, viewers at home, and domesticated pets of viewers at home who might be watching this show. This show is on behalf of all domesticated animals, this lecture. In the 5 to 7 minutes of this speech, you will learn about the treatment of animals, past and present, and you will experience an invocation on their behalf that their plight of suffering may be eased. How many people here have ever had a pet? Did you love the pet?
Mm-hmm.
Did the pet love you?
Hope so.
Were you in relationship?
Yeah.
Yes. Relationship with animal husbandry isn't quite as fine as the relationship with pets in the home, because we have to live with them in the home. But on the farm, they receive just as much care if they're fortunate. This fan is from southeast China as a result of a village that was starving, killing all the animals for food. Everywhere was blood. This fan says in Chinese, "Let the animals go free." So it wasn't something that people enjoyed doing, but they had to do it. And this is a sign that they want to make peace with the animals they care for once again. I grew up on my grandfather's dairy farm. He had 9 dairy cows of all colors, sizes, and ages. He milked them by hand twice a day, morning and evening. The farm was much like this. It looks like a pleasant place to go. It's sunny, there's fresh air, there's a stream for water. And the animals, the chickens over here, are outside in the sunlight and the fresh air, under the sky, pecking worms and bugs. They're not locked away inside unless the weather's bad or the fox is out there at night. This book was given to me at a JFAN meeting. I kept it. I looked at it, but it grossed me out. The truth in this book is hard. This is a hideous place for animals confined and concentrated, but it's a fact of life right now. In the last 20 years, industrial farming has been making progress, especially in Iowa. We live in Iowa. We breathe the air in Iowa. We drink the water in Iowa. And we grow food from the earth in Iowa. So these things are important to us in our life, for our lives. And we don't see the animals that are in the buildings, in the CAFOs. But this book, if you were interested, you can have a look. Some people who received the book gave it back. They couldn't handle it. I had a dream. About 3 months ago, this speech is a result of that dream. The domesticated animals came to me in a dream, a medicine dream I'll call it, because they showed themselves distorted in their energy, sick and huddled together, and pleading with their eyes for help. It was a difficult dream for me because it doesn't seem like there's much I can do to help them. However, in this group tonight, I feel that we can do something that's beneficial by invoking a higher power to come in and help improve our situation from starvation and from greed to more loving kindness and non-injury for all sentient beings, but especially for those animals that we use for food. I would like to ask you to participate in the great invocation. It is a quote from Tibetan Master Dual Kul. You can read along silently, or you can speak with me. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Pause. From the point of love in the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of light and love work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. As Mahatma Gandhi said, any society must ultimately be judged by the way it treats its weakest members. No one is more weak than domesticated animals, more dependent and more vulnerable than domesticated animals. This time of year we celebrate the birth of Christ. Christ was born in a manger, and who were the first beings, sentient beings, to lay eyes on him?
Domestic animals.
Domestic animals. The humble beasts of burden, the beasts of the field, were the first to see the illuminated Christ child. God's gift to us, if you were born Christian and you were raised Christian and you practice Christianity, you have some inkling of what I'm talking about, that Christ is the light, the truth, and the way. And the beasts were the first to observe that. So, it is my great honor to say thank you to you and to say a prayer to close this meeting, this lecture, this sermon, speaking on behalf of the animals. Supreme Being, I humbly invoke for divine blessing, divine love, and divine grace for the people participating in this speech tonight. And I especially thank you for your divine balance that will return animal husbandry to a loving kindness and non-injury type of care.
Thank you, Rhonda. That was great. I also like the painting here. Did you do it yourself?
Yes.
Perfect. Watercolors. Now Stephanie will come.
No.
Sorry.
2 minutes to
Please take 2 minutes to evaluate Rhonda. Now, Stephanie Chambers will introduce John Lowers.
It's my pleasure to introduce John. He's giving his second speech in the Competent Communicator Manual. He's up to the section organising your speech. The objectives are to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand your speech. Make your message clear with supporting material directly contributing to that message. Use appropriate transitions when moving from one idea to another. Create a strong opening and conclusion. Okay. The title of John's speech is Forests I Have Known. John Lewis has visited many forests around the world, and we'll talk about a few of them. He has noticed that, like people, forests are different wherever you travel. He would like to give you a taste of the flavorful fragrances of the flora and fauna for 5 forests he has known. What make them different and why he loves them all.
Golden speakers, honored guests, and hikers at home. I would like to introduce you to 5 of my favorite forests that I've visited and spent time in, and to show you how each forest has its own personality. That personality, just like people, is determined by forces that play upon us and upon forests. Forests have a certain age. They're located at a certain latitude. They get a certain amount of rainfall. They have certain types of trees. and they're dependent upon the topography of the area. So each forest that I'm going to bring tonight to you has a personality that's shaped by these factors. First, I grew up in New York on Long Island, and as most people know, upstate New York is all forests. It's the Adirondack Mountains, and it's beautiful. The mountains are very old mountains, very rounded, very domed. The trees are pine trees, and they're very old growth. And it's the type of forest where Washington Irving wrote about the legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Rip Van Winkle tales. And it's also where James Fenimore Cooper wrote his Last of the Mohicans, the Deer Slayer, all about the Mohicans, the Mohawks, Hudson River Valley. It's an old forest. And if you've been upstate New York, it's a feeling that you won't get in any other place in the United States. After I left New York, I moved west and settled in Iowa. And the forest that I found that I'm drawn to was up in the Boundary Waters, northern Minnesota, southern Canada. And there's thousands of lakes up there. It's where the French trappers were portaged from lake to lake. And the forest there it's very rocky, very harsh winters. And this pine forest had very gnarled, dense trees. And there was a lot of wildlife, moose and elk. And I remember on one canoeing trip, I even had an altercation with a large black bear that was in our camp. I was with my 9-year-old son, James. And he got our food pack, or tried to get our food pack the first night. And I thought I'd tied it up high enough for raccoons, but I never imagined a bear. And so in the middle of the night, I look out, I shine the flashlight out there, and I see eye shine. And I'm expecting like eye shine on the ground. And there was eye shine like this high off the ground. I go, James, a bear. He says, no. I said, yeah. So I like bolted out of the tent because he was getting all our food, and James was a vegetarian, and basically he wouldn't eat anything like fish or anything, so I had to protect his food. So I'm banging pans and everything, running into the darkness towards the bear. And then the next morning, well, we stayed up all night. We built a fire. And the next morning we went fishing. We came back, and the bear was in our camp, and he was huge. But anyway, we had to leave, and so we moved camp. So that's the Boundary Waters. We try to go every year, and that has a certain personality up there. And I spent a lot of years in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest, and that's just stupendous. The forests there are amazing. Personality of those is just regal, tall Doug fir trees with no branches until the very top, because they're all competing for sunlight, and it's very dark. Sunlight can't penetrate. But when it does penetrate, and on the bed of needles, pine needles, the fragrance of the sun hitting these wet pine needles is amazing. And you've got ferns dripping and creeks. It's really something to hold. And I used to love lying on the ground and watching the tops of the fir trees just swaying in the wind. It was pretty amazing. Spent many years there. But everyone who lives in the Pacific Northwest wants to go to where? Alaska. Alaska is the place. It's like the Pacific Northwest is like a mini Alaska. So finally got to go to Alaska and talk about forests. That is an amazing place. I use the word amazing a lot. I have a predilection to using amazing a lot. I have a predilection to going to forests and hiking too. But anyway, in Alaska, I had the good fortune to be able to fly over forests and hike in the forests. And we were there for 10 days. That was 2 years ago. And the mountains in Alaska are indescribable. They're just huge. And when you're flying into Anchorage, for a good 45 minutes, you're flying through these mountains below the level of the mountains. And they're just rising all around you. And this just gives you a taste of what's coming. And we landed and we spent time on the Kenai Peninsula, where we saw moose, elk, heard elk, didn't see them, and grizzly bears. Lots of grizzly bears. Like we stayed at Anchorage the first night, and our guest said, "Oh, there's a lot of bears." And I said, "Yeah, a lot of bears." as for the tourists, you know. But we got out into the woods and out into the rivers, and we actually saw bears. And the DNR would tell you if you get a fish on, the bear is attracted by the flopping of the fish. And if the bear comes, you're supposed to cut your line and move away because they don't want to associate, they don't want the bears to associate people with food because it's not safe. So after Alaska, came back to Iowa, and the personality of the woods that I have in Iowa, it's just woods, it's not a forest. But it's all deciduous trees. It's very barren in the wintertime. It's like a jungle in the summertime. And Iowa has such a sweetness to it because it's just so open, and deer run through and turkey, and that personality is very sweet here, walking in the woods here. So these are 5 of my favorite forests, and I hope that every chance you people get when you travel, seek out some forest near where you're staying and take a day hike and see and sense if actually there's a personality there, something you can introduce yourself to, and it'll introduce itself back to you. Thank you.
Please take 2 minutes to evaluate John. Now Jean will take the role of evaluator and evaluate and introduce Will Burns, who is our next speaker. Welcome, Jean.
Will Burns is doing project number 7 of the Competent Communicator Manual, which is titled Researcher Topic. His objectives are to collect information about a topic from numerous sources, to carefully support his points and opinions with specific facts, examples, and illustrations gathered through research. In regards to this topic, Will has plenty of first-hand experience. His personal knowledge has inspired him to extensively research an effective cure. By the way, the title of his speech is Beat Away Your Winter Sadness. S-A-D is capitalized. Ness. So he has some personal experience that he's going to be sharing along with his research. Please join me in warmly welcoming Will Burns as he tells us how to beat away your winter sadness.
Thank you, Jean. Fellow Toastmasters, how many of you have felt some change in your mood over the winter season here? Show of hands.
This morning.
Well, in the next 7 minutes, I will outline 3 techniques to powerfully beat the winter blues or the seasonal affective disorder that some of us are affected with. Now, only about an estimated 5% of people suffer from what's known as seasonal affective disorder. It's unfortunately the number of people that are affected by the more mild form of winter blues is closer to 10 to 20%, especially in the northern regions, like Iowa. That problem doesn't seem to be quite as manifest around Miami, Florida, and on the Gulf Coast for some reason.
Yep.
So, the first technique is recommended by a man named Mark Sesson. He's a health and human development writer and speaker. In his experience, the most common technique that he has seen is the use of a light box. This is a device that simulates natural light. It must be with about 10,000 lumens. As point of comparison, the average home was about 50. Light in a home is about 50. In a office, it's about 300 to 500. In a studio, about 1,000. What the light box does is simulate the effects of daylight in a winter environment where you can't actually get it outside.
Great.
He recommends about 30 minutes a day of blue light, and if you get one of these devices, which runs about $100 to $500, that you get one specific to seasonal affective disorder. Because there are this uses a UV light, and there are other uses for UV lights for treating skin conditions which you don't want to have anything to do with if you don't have a skin condition because of the potential deleterious effects. The second is cognitive behavioral therapy, which the Mayo Clinic defines as a common, I'll get this right. It's a common form of mental health counseling where patient and practitioner engage in a restructuring of inaccurate or negative thought processes to direct the subject to a more effective way of thinking about the environment. It's been shown to be effective in many forms of anxiety and has been shown to be in a study conducted by the University of Vermont. It was the most effective of three forms between the use of phototherapy or a light box, cognitive behavioral therapy, and then a combination. It was shown as the most effective to reduce the reoccurrence of SAD. However, it was not the most effective at causing the remission thereof. So, the takeaway is, right now, if you have the winter blues, the best is a combination of light therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, according to the study by the University of Vermont. Now, if for some reason you don't like to spend money, like myself, and you're interested in alternate forms of therapy, or if you are, for whatever reason, you don't necessarily want to talk to a therapist, there's another technique which I like to refer to as the bulldog technique. And I refer to it because it's a small thing. It's a small thing, but it's incredibly powerful. In that, I'm sure you've all heard this before. Get plenty of rest. Maintain a good diet. Eat your healthy shakes, and don't eating sugar-coated food. Get to sleep on time, and be exposed to sunlight, preferably in the morning. To recap, the ways that you can combat seasonal affective disorder or the winter blues: a light box, where you can undergo what's referred to as phototherapy, work with a therapist with cognitive behavioral therapy, or the bulldog technique, which really is probably the least effective, but you can do right now if you aren't already perfectly in sync with that. And yeah, I can start right now. Gene.
Thank you, Will. There's no more excuse now for the winter blues. Unless you don't want to pay for the light box, you can go to Florida for probably the same money. Can you please take 2 minutes to evaluate Bill? Will, now please take a minute to vote for the best speaker. Thanks.
Yes.
Can you please mention the names again?
Rhonda, John, and Will.
So Rhonda, John, and Will were our 3 qualified speakers for tonight. Please vote for them. Thank you. We are at our evaluation section, and Scott Terry will be our general evaluator, and he will take care of this section of the meeting.
All right, excellent. We are ready for the evaluations from Dan, Stephanie, and Jean to evaluate Dan to evaluate Rhonda, Stephanie to evaluate John, and Jean to evaluate Will. This should be very interesting. Dan, come on up and tell us how Rhonda did.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Rhonda. I really enjoyed Rhonda's talk. I think probably I could speak for all of you confidently. She gives us sort of a special presentation every time. It's not just, she didn't just come up here and start talking. They're carefully thought out, lots of beautiful little touches, and so many things done well. One little thing I noticed is she began with some humor, which I always like to hear. She greeted the domestic animals that might be watching at home. I like that. This project asks that she use rhetorical devices, and I noticed that she used several rhetorical questions. For example, how many of you have had a pet? I would suspect that she had a lot of rhetorical devices in her talk, but I just don't have a mind that can sort of like parse those pieces out as I listen to a talk. So I apologize. I'm sure there were a lot of things in there done well. Another thing I liked about your talk was your use of stories. For example, you told us that you grew up on a dairy farm, and that led into your explanation of how the painting that you had represented the ideal farmyard with the domestic animals out in the sun. I particularly liked the vivid descriptions that you used in places like that. The chickens scratching for worms, able to move around as much as they wanted. Right at that point, there was one thing that I would have suggested you do a little differently. You spoke about that ideal situation of the painting, and then you turned and said, this book about CAFOs was given to me. It was a great contrast, but all I needed was a few words of transition. The visual aids gave you a transition, but a few words added in, just in contrast to that ideal situation that we can see here. There's the CAFO. The only other little suggestion I had for you is a tendency to clasp your hands, which is pretty minor. You, in general, use the stage well. You move around very comfortably, but I did notice that part. What I particularly liked about the talk, and I've noticed this in your other talks also, is just the lavish attention to detail. Everything is just so in Rhonda's talks. She has a t-shirt that's themed to her talk. She has a beautiful fan that's one of her things. She has a painting that she's done. She's got a book about CAFOs. It's just a lot of beautiful little details, and they really do add to the speech. And of course, in this case, she also had the invocation that we joined in with, and she had the prayer at the end. Just beautiful detail all around. We enjoyed it very much. We look forward to many more. Thank you. Scott.
Oh, yes. Going to come back and forth. Dan, great. Awesome. Stephanie now will come on up, and I will be timing Stephanie while I'm evaluating Stephanie. And I'll be doing some other time. Oh, you'll time. All righty, great. Dan, I really enjoyed what you did, and I'm looking forward to evaluating your evaluation. So, Stephanie, come on up and Oh, you can shake my hand too. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home, and John. I always enjoy John's talks because there's something interesting about, I like the topics he chooses. They're always very interesting and so far I found very filled with nature. I get a real sense of the world and the environment from John's talks. With this particular talk, the aim was to develop a structure. And I thought John took the right approach. He chose 5 things to talk about. I would mention, though, that some people suggest that it's even better to just do 3, and then go more into depth with each one, because apparently the human mind likes 3s. And apparently it's a common technique in comedy and all sorts of things. So you might find that, once again, it's always make it simpler, make it simpler. Because even though I like the structure of the 5, I kept almost having to think in my head, oh, are we up to number 4 now? Or are we still on number 3? You know, I think it doesn't hurt to treat us like 4-year-olds. And the first forest I went to, and the second forest when I moved to so-and-so was such and such. You know, and using the stage. But 5's a bit hard with the stage, you know, you really have to work it out. Whereas 3 is easier, because, you know, you can easily choose 3 spots. So that's my main suggestion for you, is to just think about making it simpler. And I love the way you put details in. Like, I could see you lying on the pine forest and smelling those pine needles in Oregon. I really like that, and if you add even more of that, I think it would be even richer. You know, think about all the different senses. You touched on them a little bit, but it's always good to try and use each of the 5 senses if you can. So that would be my main suggestions. And perhaps also pausing a little bit between each forest would have given us, once again, more emphasis on the structure. And of course, if you could, I liked your ending in that you gave us some motivation of what we could gain from going to forests. I think perhaps if you'd mentioned that a little bit more at the beginning, we would have then been listening out for that and had our focus on that in a way. So it doesn't hurt to, in a way, give an intention at the beginning that you give at the end. You gave it very well at the end, but having it at the beginning helps as well, just to reinforce the structure and to give everyone something to follow. But other than that, I thought it was a great speech, and I'm really looking forward to more of your speeches.
She shook my hand. Very exciting. That was Stephanie, and now we're going to get to Jean. Jean, come on up and tell us how Will did.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home, and particularly Will. I started feeling like I was missing the sun as soon as Will started talking. Very relevant for this audience today. That's the first question. How well did the speaker's topic apply to the audience? Well, we're in the target group. We're in the northern hemisphere or northern area, and so we're going to be the group that's likely to experience this seasonal affective disorder. Was the topic well researched? Several examples. Will gave an expert, I think it was Mark Sesson. He gave us some stats about the prevalence of SAD and winter blues. I'm speaking also to the, not just was it research, but the variety of sources. He also gave us a study from the University of Vermont, talked about comparing the cognitive behavior with the light box in terms of recurrence versus getting it in the first place, something I was trying to follow all that, but again, variety of sources and able to cite them, which is what a research project should be able to do. How clear was the speaker's purpose? He said right up front he's going to give us 3 techniques for dealing with this seasonal affective disorder. Was the speech effectively organized? I liked it. At the opening, he just said, how many of you have noticed that you have this from time to time? And most of us raised our hands. So that gave me a reason to listen to him, because he's going to tell me something that I'm raising my hand on. And Dan's raising his hand on it too, so then I know something about Dan. Which is important since we live in the same household. What could the speaker have done differently to improve the speech? I'd like to see Will change up his vocal variety a bit. He tends to do kind of a, here we are, and this is what we're going to do, and it's like this, and I feel like if I were in the army, I would be, or the military, I'd be hop to it, and just up, up. So I'd like to see a little bit, that's about, I mean, I know Will from other things, so I can kind of elaborate a little bit, but I would say try some softer, a little bit more conversational tones as well, so that you get more texture in the delivery. I'd also like to see a personal story. In this speech, a personal story about how Will maybe noticed that he was reacting a little bit more heavily during the winter times, and how he discovered he had seasonal affective disorder, why this was personal for him. I'd like to have seen that. What did I like about the speech? Well, I really liked, again, understanding how prevalent SAD is and some of the details about the techniques. I felt that the 3rd technique, the bulldog technique, got a little bit short shrift. Maybe it's because he thinks that we all pretty much know what those things are, but a little bit of research on that could have been helpful about getting the more rest and making sure you're eating the right way. I think just a little bit to balance out that. Very relevant for this audience, this time of year. It is shortest days of the years, and just the overall energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Timer, did everyone qualify? Did all our evaluators qualify?
Jane went over the slide.
Oh!
I should have said thank you.
No thank yous.
To be honest, I think Dan may have.
Oh! Let's keep it in mind.
Let's not be too honest.
Can we take back a thank you, possibly? No, she's gone. So,
We have a winner.
who's the...
I qualified.
You qualify.
And I qualified.
And Art qualifies. Where's our Art? So, everybody take a moment and evaluate the evaluators.
AKA vote for.
What?
AKA vote for.
Vote for. Yes, vote for the evaluators. If you're one of the evaluators, can you... We now get into the evaluation of the evaluators.
Never ends.
Never ends. Never ending process.
It's like a mirror looking in a mirror. It just goes on.
There needs to be an evaluator of the evaluators who are evaluating the evaluators. I just think it's inevitable. Ms. Timer, are we ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Art. Really fantastic job. I love how you were very succinct, very on top of things, great detail, positive and negative for each person. Question I would have, or suggestion I would have, is the same thing I'm suggesting for myself, which is get out from behind the lecture and get out of your notes, which is really hard to do, especially when there's so many little details to come through. Great job. Really loved your energy. Loved how you come at it. Dan. So I'm now going to talk about the 3 evaluators of the speech. Jean did a better job than Stephanie and Dan at this, but all 3 of you needed to add in the pre-talk, when you're reading the manual and you're reading the info, add a little bit of you. Wow, that was great. I'm really looking forward to this. Think about how Seth sort of pulls everyone in before the speech actually comes through. Jean did a little bit of that by spelling out sadness a little bit. So I had a little bit of sense of Jean in there. I would have liked even just a tad more. Second comment to the general group is, again, what I just failed to do, which is say, welcome Toastmasters, welcome guests, welcome whoever, camera people, who's ever on this planet. I think Stephanie didn't do that, and I don't believe you did that, but I might have missed that. Jean did a full thing of that, full greeting. Couple quick things. For Dan, that very animated voice and movement at the beginning really pulled me into your evaluation. I love how you noticed the details of her talk. Even the small little parts like the humor of the animals, you know, to greeting to the animals. I loved how you pulled that in out of it. Small little details really added to your evaluation. You noticed her transition and her hand drop off. You could have added a few more things which were a little bit bigger, such as having more fuller conclusions, redirection back to the audience, be more purposeful with her movement and her eye contact, which all three speakers failed at today. They were all sort of wandering about and they're looking around, all three of the speakers. So you could have added a little bit. So that's a general comment that none of you really commented on very well. Stephanie, you did a really nice evaluation, but you also confused me how you did it. You kept going back and forth between positive and negative. I liked how you did the one thing that I didn't do, and Dan didn't do, and Jean didn't do, which is didn't use notes. So you get huge points for that. But you kept going back and forth. So, and then you'd start going into, John, I really liked, for example, your details that you had in, but I wish you would have had more of them. And then you go into another negative thing, such as needing more pauses. But then you'd go into, I loved your motivation, the mountains and stuff. I wish you would have just given us more. And you kept doing that back and forth. I liked how you really invoked John's presence with how you said things and how you looked at the pictures and how you got that. But I would have wanted you to be a bit more consistent with being clear. Now we're doing positive, now we're doing negative, and if we want to sandwich it with another positive at the end, we could do that. Before I run out of time, Jean, really good job. Great going down the book. Research as a positive, but you also used research also as a negative. So be a little clearer on that. That was a confusing point to me. You said, Will, you did a great job in terms of your research. I wish you would have done a little bit more in terms of this point, which you brought up at the end. I like how you brought it back to the audience about what Will did, which was also a very good point. Time to go, so I will end right here. Thank you so much. I'm getting the blinking red light, which means I really got to go. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
You do the rolls.
Oh, I did the rolls?
You do the reports.
I do the reports. Of course I do. Let's go through the reports then. Miss Timer, how did we do on time? Apart from me blinking out.
Fairly well. Slobodan, table topics was 1 minute 18 seconds. Scott was 2 minutes 10 seconds. Jesus was 1 minute 25 seconds. The speeches Rhonda was 7 minutes and 10 seconds. John was 6 minutes 58 seconds. Will was 6 minutes 22. part, and his evaluation was 2 minutes 45. Dan, I think it was 3 minutes 31. I was 2 minutes 46, and Jean was 3 minutes 33 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. Connor? Dan? How do we do?
We did
Apart from my
great.
several so's that I was sewing in to be sewing forward.
Slobodan, I had 5 uhs, 1 ah, 2 so's, 1 and ah. Jeff, 1 ah, 1 so. Scott, 3 uhs, 1 so, 1 and. Stephanie, 1 ah, 1 2 you knows, 1 so. Jesus was clear. Art, I had 1 and. 2 repeats.
Right.
Rhonda, 1 so. John, 4 uhs, 3 so's, 3 and uhs,
Ooh.
7
And
ands, 1 repeat. Jean, 1
Ooh.
Will, 1 so.
That's the sound of thinking.
It's a filler thinking. Will, 3 ands. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Grammarian, Jesus?
No, it's me.
No, you're grammarian. Jean. What is this?
All right. This is going to do. What is he?
This week.
Oh, where is it?
Well, we had a little bit of usage of the word for the evening, predilection. Slobodan used it twice. Slobodan also had a phrase that I liked, is it possible to be happy versus right? In his story that was just, gave us a flavor of what the whole issue was without him actually telling us a lot about it. Jeff used it once, Scott used it once, Jesus, something Jesus said that I liked is we should celebrate. And then he gave this really nice pause every single moment.
Oh, yeah.
I personally think Jesus is a master of timing, words coming out for emphasis. Rhonda, I wrote Rhonda down, but I think I was getting overwhelmed by all my positions. Rhonda, did you use the word at the night, predilection? You said something good, but I didn't get a chance to write it down because I wrote your name down. John used it once, and then Will, I like that Will used the word deleterious. I like that word. Okay, that's my report.
And now it's time for who what? Correct?
Joke.
Joke. We do joke first? Joke.
Right.
A couple of old friends around age of 90 at the nursery home. One told the other, "Do you want to go out for a walk?" The other one replies, "Isn't it Wendy?" "Really? I thought it was Thursday." The other one say, "Me too. I'm gonna go get me something to drink." Another one.
Oh,
couple.
I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it Wendy? Wendy? I thought it was Thursday. Oh, really? Me too. I'm gonna get something to drink. Another one. Old couple, man and wife, around the age of 90. The woman asked her husband, "Honey, do you remember if we ever had mutual orgasm?" The man thinks. He said, "No, honey, we always had a State Farm."
Yes. My head's still spinning from that. Yes. It's time to go through the winners. The table topics of the night. No, you get to do. You get to do. I'm out of here. Good.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. There are so many overlapping roles, but I think the topic of this, is it called a topic, or the theme of this meeting was most like appreciation, I believe. Appreciation for the forest, for the sun, and the animals. And I'm really glad that my favorite animal is not a fried chicken. So, who are the winners? I got something. Who are the winners? The table topics. Mr. Jesus.
Hey!
Is this right position? And the best speaker. Rhonda.
Good job.
And the best evaluator, Stephanie. Pass the meeting to President Will. Thank you.
Well, it's been a great meeting. We've had a lot of speeches. We've had a lot of evaluations. And now it's time to go home. I hope you got your fix, because this is all you get for another 2 weeks.
When's our next meeting?
Our next meeting is going to be not next week, not the week after, because those Christmas, New Year's, but it'll be after that,
January 8th.
January 8th.
Mentioned about Seth's talk is going to be online.
Yes.
That was masterfully done yesterday.
Yesterday, if you were here, if you were privileged enough to be here, if you were, I think you all got invited. Those of you that were here, phenomenal talk. It's online.
Really phenomenal.
Really, really phenomenal. I've already seen the effects start to filter in to this hall. With that, I bid you all a wonderful night. I will release you to your homes and to your other duties. But first, please take a few minutes here to help us to pick up. And with that, meeting adjourned.